Please subscribe to Counsel of Regret, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. I've spent 41 years watching people ruin themselves with handshakes. Not because they were stupid, because they believed someone cared. Loyalty is not reciprocal. It's a billing structure. The people you protect will not protect you. They'll describe you accurately when it serves them. I don't say this to upset you. I say it because I've read the depositions. You think silence is solidarity. Silence is evidence you knew. You think longevity is leverage. Longevity is a longer fall. The firm doesn't remember your first decade. It remembers your last mistake. I've sat across from people who gave 30 years to a room, raised children around its calendar, missed births for its emergencies, wore its name like a family crest. And when the room needed a body, they were always surprised it was theirs. Not because they were expendable, because they were convenient. Loyalty doesn't protect you from being the answer. It makes you the obvious answer. The people who survive long careers are not the most loyal. They're the most documented. Every agreement in writing. Every shift in responsibility recorded. Every verbal promise followed by email. Not because they're paranoid, because they've watched loyalty lose in court. You can't submit devotion as evidence. You can't depose a feeling. The company you built your life around has a legal department you've never met. They know your name. You don't know theirs. That's not an accident. I've seen people lose everything because they assumed the relationship was mutual. It wasn't mutual. It was hierarchical. And hierarchy has no memory during litigation. You think you're irreplaceable. You're not. You're familiar. Familiarity is not a contract. When I was 37, I let a senior partner tell me something was handled. I didn't ask for proof. I didn't follow up. I assumed his word was enough because we'd worked together for 9 years. It wasn't handled. And when it surfaced, he didn't remember the conversation. I had no email, no memo, no witness. I learned that trust is not a defense. I also learned that people don't lie in those moments. They genuinely forget. And their forgetfulness costs you everything. The people you're loyal to are not documenting your contributions. They're assuming you'll stay. Assumption is not evidence. I've deposed executives who couldn't name the person who saved the account. Not because they were malicious, because they didn't need to remember. Loyalty flows up. Accountability flows down. You're working late for someone who's sleeping fine. I've seen people refuse to update their resumes for 15 years. Not out of laziness, out of loyalty. They believed longevity was currency. It's not. It's a sunk cost the company will reference to justify why you should accept less. You've been here 18 years. You understand how we do things. We're a family. Families don't have litigation departments. The moment you become expensive, inconvenient, or complicated, that family will describe you as a liability. And they won't be wrong. Because you never protected yourself. You thought protection was disloyalty. I've taken testimony from people who were walked out the same day they returned from medical leave. 15 years of service. Perfect reviews. No warnings. They didn't see it coming because they believed in the relationship. The relationship was a roster. When your name becomes a problem, it gets removed. Not with cruelty, with efficiency. You think you'll get a chance to defend yourself. You won't. You'll get a meeting with HR and someone from legal you've never seen. They'll have a folder. You'll have your confusion. The folder wins. I've watched people leave buildings they built. Not because they failed. Because they didn't document their value in a format the company could be sued over. Your manager's praise means nothing in severance negotiations. You need emails. You need records. You need witnesses who are still employed and willing to speak. Loyalty gives you none of that. The people who make it to retirement in one piece are not beloved. They're meticulous. They didn't trust the culture. They trusted the handbook. They didn't rely on relationships. They relied on paper. And when the company tried to revise history, they had receipts. You don't. You have years of goodwill and no evidence it existed. I've sat in rooms where someone's entire career was erased because there was no documentation. Meetings they led, projects they saved, strategies they designed. Gone. Not because the company lied, because no one wrote it down in a way that mattered. Loyalty doesn't survive a legal hold. You think you're building equity. You're building a reputation that can't be liquidated. Reputation is not transferable. Equity is. The people who leave with something are the ones who treated their career like a contract, not a marriage. Marriages are emotional. Contracts are enforceable. Your company is not confused about which one this is. You are. I've seen people stay in roles they'd outgrown because they felt they owed it to the team. The team moved on. They didn't. Loyalty kept them in place while everyone else got promoted around them. And when they finally asked why, they were told they were too valuable where they were. That's not a compliment. That's a cap. You think you're indispensable. You're immobile. I've deposed managers who admitted they blocked internal transfers because they didn't want to lose someone. Not illegal, just true. Your loyalty made you easier to trap. The people who rise are not the most dedicated. They're the most willing to leave. Leaving is leverage. Staying is sunk cost. You think tenure protects you. It doesn't. It just makes you expensive. And when budgets tighten, expensive gets cut first. I've seen 20-year employees let go in the same round as new hires. Same severance. Same exit process. The 2 decades didn't matter. They mattered to you, not to the balance sheet. You think loyalty will be remembered. It will be forgotten 30 seconds after your exit interview. Your desk will be cleaned. Your files will be transferred. Your responsibilities will be reassigned. No one will ask where you went. I've reviewed severance agreements that prohibit people from saying anything negative about the company. The company is not prohibited from saying anything about them. Loyalty is one-directional in litigation. You're still protecting them. They're no longer protecting you. I've watched people sign without reading because they were embarrassed to ask questions. Embarrassment is not a legal defense. You'll sign something this year that you don't fully understand. And 5 years from now, it will matter. You won't remember signing it. The company will produce the document. You think people will vouch for you. They won't. Not because they don't care. Because they still work there. I've seen entire teams refuse to testify on behalf of someone they loved. Not out of malice. Out of self-preservation. Loyalty ends where employment continues. You think you're building relationships that will last. You're building dependencies that will end the day you're not useful. I don't say this to be cruel. I say it because I've seen it 500 times. Different industries, different people, same pattern. The ones who give everything are the ones who lose everything. Not because they were bad at their jobs, because they were good at loyalty. And loyalty is not a legal standard. You're sitting in a position right now that you think is permanent. It's not. Someone is already being considered for it. Not because you failed, because the company is always hedging. I've reviewed succession plans that listed replacements for people who had no idea they were being replaced. Active employees, strong performers, loyal for decades. All of them had a name in a folder. You do too. The difference is they knew. You don't. Loyalty makes you predictable. Predictable makes you replaceable. The people who leave on their terms are the ones who never stopped interviewing. Not because they were disloyal, because they understood the terms. Employment is conditional. Loyalty is optional. The company exercises both. You only exercise one. I've seen people turn down opportunities because they didn't want to abandon their team. The team was reassigned 6 months later. They weren't consulted. I've seen people reject competitive offers because they believed the company would match. It didn't, and the offer expired. Loyalty cost them $100,000. The company didn't reimburse them for their devotion. You think sacrifice will be recorded. It won't. You'll remember what you gave up. They'll remember what you accepted. I've deposed CFOs who couldn't recall why someone wasn't promoted. Not because they were hiding something, because it wasn't memorable. Your career is not memorable to the people controlling it. It's a line item. I've seen entire departments eliminated with no advance notice. People who'd been there since the company started. Same exit packet as everyone else. Loyalty didn't grant extensions. You think your relationship with leadership matters. It does, until it doesn't. And the transition happens faster than you think. I've watched people get terminated by managers who had dinner at their house. Not because the manager wanted to, because someone above them made a decision. And loyalty doesn't travel up chains of command. You think you're protected because people like you. You're not. You're protected by contracts, documentation, and leverage. Likability is a social advantage. It's not a legal one. I've seen well-liked people escorted out. I've seen difficult people survive layoffs. The difference wasn't personality. It was documentation. The difficult ones had everything in writing. The liked ones had nothing but goodwill. Goodwill doesn't appear in severance calculations. You're trading your security for comfort. Comfort is short-term. Security requires documentation. I've reviewed cases where people worked unpaid overtime for years. They didn't track it. They didn't report it. They thought loyalty meant not complaining. When they were let go, they tried to claim it. No records. No case. Loyalty erased their leverage. You think tracking your work is petty. It's not. It's the difference between severance and settlement. The people who walk away whole are the ones who treated their employment like the company treats them. Transactionally, you're the only one being emotional about this. The company has actuaries calculating your value. You have feelings. Feelings don't win in arbitration. I've seen people stay out of guilt. The company felt nothing when it restructured them out. I've seen people refuse to negotiate because they didn't want to seem greedy. The company negotiated their exit down to the minimum. You think there's honor in not asking. There's just loss. The people you're being loyal to are maximizing their position. You're minimizing yours and calling it integrity. I've been in rooms where executives debated whether someone's loyalty made them worth retaining. It didn't. It made them expensive and comfortable. Comfortable people don't produce desperation. Desperation produces results. Loyalty produces complacency. The company prefers the former. You're still operating under old terms. The terms changed. You didn't get the memo because there wasn't one. There never is. I've seen policies shift overnight. People who followed the old rules were penalized under the new ones. No grace period. No grandfather clause. Loyalty to the old way became evidence of inflexibility. You think consistency is valued. It's not. Adaptability is. But only if you're adapting toward what they want, not what you believe. I've taken statements from people who were fired for doing exactly what they were hired to do. The priorities changed. They didn't. Loyalty to the mission cost them the job. You're working toward a finish line that keeps moving. And you think persistence will be rewarded. It won't. It'll be noted as failure to adjust. The file is already being built. Not because you've done anything wrong. Because files are always being built. And when the time comes, they'll open yours.